And greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. And we are here again tonight, going over some information. Tonight, we want to get started in with the Universal Postal Union's final protocol, a series going over some of their documentation, um, specifically as they relate to the protocols, which are um, if you look at it as the Constitution of the United States, you got Article 1, Section 8, and then clauses, it would be the sections of the articles of the Constitution of the Universal Postal Union. So the protocols are the same thing as the sections in the Constitution of the United States. And then you have the clauses, which are the contract terms and conditions within, specifically, particularly, or generally. And this is what the U.S. Code and Code of Federal Regulations is. It's the commercial contracting, and that's done through the United States, which federal government, which is the political body and not the corporate body, is the go-between between the judicial, which is the international forum. So we're going to go through that, and then we're just going to get touched on that tonight because first I've got a couple other things I want to go through before we get into it. And the first thing I wanted was a video I came across today. You know, I like to watch the various different audit videos and things that expose things about corruption in the system. And one of those types of videos I like to watch are the city council meetings and stuff. And lately, there's been a lot of speaking out about the way the city council operates and violates the public. And this one, it kind of shows the internal side versus the public side. Kind of like the Tiffany Henyard thing. That's an internal situation. This is another one that's going the same type of way. We've got somebody that's speaking out against them, and the rest of the commission is coming after them. Whereas Tiffany Henyard is speaking out, and the rest of the commission is coming after her for two different reasons. Tiffany Henyard is being abusive, and this one is one that's speaking out, and they're trying to oust her. And this is the same thing with police that have a hard time being a inside witness to the corruption. They get ousted. So we end up with police forces that are full of corrupt people that are supported by county commissions and city councils full of corrupt people. So let's take a look at it. This is official arrested for speaking at her own meeting. Her rights were violated just like they violate the rest of the public. Because if you have a corrupt group of people that have control in such a manner, this is the way it works. You have to get rid of the corrupt people and their interpretations that they put forth as slander, treason, sedition, all of that. That's a misrepresentation of the honor of the American people through the United States citizenship. These people aren't supposed to be operating these admiralty maritime laws on the land.
Because I'm requesting you to stand up, please. We're not going to deal with this. You're being very disruptive. You're disrupting the meeting. I'm not.
They're specifically naval contracts, again, extending from the Royal Navy and the Royal Houses for their labor union, Universal Postal Union, for all accounting, financial accountings that have to have insurance and taxes.
An elected official arrested and escorted out of her own meeting by police while criticizing the county sheriff.
This happened in Trumbull County, Ohio. Nikki Frenchko was arrested by two sheriff's deputies during a July 2022 commissioners meeting after she was critical of the county sheriff, Paul Monroe. The deputies told Frenchko she was disrupting the public meeting. She was removed and handcuffed with her later finding out that her fellow commissioners were the ones that called the cops on her. While the charge was later dismissed, she immediately filed a federal lawsuit. This week, a judge ruled that her constitutional rights were indeed violated.
Stand up, ma'am, please. Stand up.
Disrupting a meeting?
That's correct. You're being disruptive. Stand up.
She's being disruptive because she hurt the sheriff's feelings. She hurt the sheriff's feelings as one of the members on the board. The very people that the sheriff gets his empowerment from to represent the public, the people that voted him in an electoral vote. That man is committing treason through the use of his other people. That is conspiracy. And if anybody can think that they can prove me wrong, she's like it says, a judge has already ordered that her rights were violated, even as a public servant. They are real for the public servants. The votes are real for the public servants. You don't have to vote. You can give a vote of no confidence and show how they are pirates and going by a parlay wherein they only vote for themselves.
You can be removed for
You
being
stand up
disruptive.
now. Put your phone down, ma'am.
Why?
Put your phone down, ma'am.
This is for my safety. I'd rather go out where there's videos. Do you have a video on?
You look at this sheriff, this big sheriff's deputy standing there. He's got his tats all up, got a nice naval watch, probably some kind of military style watch with all the good gadgets and stuff. And he doesn't look too comfortable. His body language with his arms crossed. You know how normally they got their arms on their belt, on their over top of their gun, and their left side and right side both something on their belt, and their arms are winged out and they're all puffed up. He doesn't look too comfortable. I think he knows what he's doing is wrong.
I do not.
No.
No.
Oh, no.
Down. You're now under arrest for disrupting the public meeting.
If they can do this to me at an open meeting in broad daylight and violate my rights like that, it scares me to think of what they would do to someone else behind closed doors or in a dark alley.
This is not Vladimir Putin's country. This is not Bashir al-Assad's country. We do not arrest our political opponents because of something they said.
And that's what is treasonous and seditious about it. Again, they're violating her contract as a speaker for the people. Therefore, they're violating the private rights of the people and her contractual rights as a representative of the people. So that is both treason and sedition.
Queen City News Chief Legal Analyst Khalif Rhodes joins us now with his insight on this, frankly, disturbing case.
Yeah, and Khalif, first off, explain that law that she's accused of.
Frankly,
Ohio has a
disturbing.
weird law. It's a misdemeanor to prevent or disrupt a lawful meeting. And the law prohibits obstructive conduct or speech that outrages the sensibilities of the group. And so they're pointing to the comments that she made about the former sheriff of the county. Because an inmate had died and they were going back and forth about it. And the one commissioner gave her an opportunity to roll back her comments and she pressed forward. And so they went and used this law to remove her from the meeting, which seemed to be extreme at the very minimum. And at the most, it seemed to be a constitutional violation.
Yeah, so you agree with the judge's ruling here, even though this happened a year and a half ago and we're now just kind of hearing about it.
1,000%. I often talk about how speech is not free, that we have folks that fight for our speech in this country, but we forget that why we have free speech in our constitution is extremely important, because at one point you were not able as a country, as a citizen, to say what you want. And we had a whole war of it. And then at some point, our founders decided that what's extremely important is that we allow people to say what we want to be able to say in public forums without the opportunity to be arrested or to be silenced. And we've seen this attack on free speech We saw it in Montana with the transgender congresswoman there who had the opportunity to say something and her colleagues attacked her. We saw it in Tennessee where those elected officials were saying something and they got reprimanded, they got removed. And so there is an attack on free speech, not just for individual citizens, but for elected officials. And so I think the crazy point about that is while we're at an extremely divided country right now, her attorney was a Democrat. And he listed as his reason for defending her because she was a Republican. He said it doesn't matter about partisan lines. This is a constitutional violation and it's clearly wrong. I was glad and happy to see that because normally you see folks sticking to their side and acting like they can't stick up for what's right or what's wrong. This is a clear constitutional violation. And let's talk about the arrest if we can for a quick.
Notice they're all saying this is a clear violation. Now, how much kahunas do you think that sheriff has if he's going around blatantly doing this? He's either got kahunas or he's real fucking stupid.
Well,
Second.
I you know, these commissioners, they got a whole lot of power in these communities, so you figure that they're running wild.
Well, yeah, and you're talking about the master commissioner, and that's what I've been looking into. I'm wondering if that's not the same thing as the county commissioner. So
no, here in Kentucky, it's Master Commissioner Finance and Administration Cabinet. And then it's under them, they are in a single judge circuit. The appointment shall be made by the circuit judge. And another thing that popped out at me down here, and that's 31A.010 Master Commissioners. And then the Master Commissioner shall perform such functions, including those of a receiver, and may be directed by an appropriate order of the court. The Supreme Court
receiver.
Yeah, they receive public funds.
Okay. Yeah, well, and get this. What do you get when you get something in the mail? You're a receiver, okay? And that's a service. And you're a receiver of service, which is a process. You are deemed to be the receiver of process of service.
Right.
You're not a receiver. You're supposed to be the benefactor for which you receive a benefit through a beneficiary, which is a collateral documentation. Go ahead, John.
I was going to just say that you're a custom service agent when you get the mail, right, Keith?
Correct. And that's that data element. You have the right to use a number in lieu of the name and address, customarily.
What my research is telling me, Keith, that Master Commissioner is a record of accounting of that Social Security number for the Social Security Administration. And then you got the state registrar at the state level. I believe that to be the kingpin in the communities is these master commissioners hiding right under everybody's noses. They're running the courts. So they got the mayor, they got everybody, the sheriff, everybody's in their pocket. And then you got the postmaster, the judge,
yep,
and the prosecutor.
Yep.
There's your transfer on the paperwork with the numbers and the stamping from the post office.
Yeah, and see, folks, if you
robbing
understand
the people
that,
blind.
If you understand that Constitution, what happens is the Postal Service is the one with the exclusive jurisdiction. Then under that Constitution, with the contracting forms and everything, contract terms and conditions required, they implement the securities instruments and everything through the agent name. That's a street name or a street security name. So you put down your security name as the agent, and then you list a street named as a security. It's got a number and a name, and that's an individual jurisdiction, a single exclusive jurisdiction, because the individual's name and number identify the record. And then you have the expression that it's a contract in trust, the city, state, and zip. If you don't understand how that exclusive jurisdiction is handled through interlocal agreements, the simple contracts, you made an interlocal agreement with that postal service by giving them an address change form. Or when you turned 18, you filled out an SS5, you got a driver's license or a state ID, you filled out an application for employment and got a job, and then turned around and gave the address change, showing that you're an adult living on your own now. You made the interlocal agreement for exclusive jurisdiction. That's the same thing they're doing with everybody else. They're granting everybody that uses that address exclusive jurisdiction for their jurisdiction, to impose their jurisdiction in the exclusive jurisdiction zones. Zoning improvement plan to stretch the zone out across all lands and waters.
It's crazy how they got this all set up, man, and it's right in front of everybody's faces.
Well, we're going to show you something here in a little bit.
There's a Kathy Robinson here that holds all these little CPPO and CPPB and NIG, all of these things. And they're public managers and capital purchase programs and career program planning board and chief plant protection officer. They control they control the local municipality, and the local government here controls everything right through this master commissioner and stuff.
Yep. Everything's done through contracts, interlocal contracting. And it's just a matter of who's got a contract with who. But those contracts, you got to remember, are in trust. Again, it's a real estate investment trust as held by the Postal Realty Trust, Inc., through the United States Post Office and Postal Service, the registered agents of the Global Postal Trust Services. And that's a military unit that poses selective services. You can select services. That's all it is. It's a contract.
Yeah.
So, let's get back to this video.
But what? No, wait. Well, all right.
Go ahead.
Well, like, see, from what I gathered, that master commissioner receives the public funds.
Yeah, but how about the county commissioner?
When we were talking,
treasurer.
When we were talking,
the county treasurer, the county commissioner, and the county's risk manager. It's insurance, taxes, and a clerk to make it all happen.
But it says, it says the receiver, and then this one is also keeps the records of that Social Security accounting of those numbers. So it would make sense with the county, the local county, and then the city municipality, and then those transfers there to her with those socials and the postmaster.
Yeah, and that's, again, municipalities operate on long arm statutes for at-hand or at arm's length contracts. Local, interlocal. You can only do contracts from man to man. You've got to be able to shake on it. Today's commercial realm, it's no longer by a shake. That was old times. Now it's signature. Everything's contract in trust. Every last bit of it.
Yeah.
All right. So let's continue on with this video.
The officer saying, when she said, "Is your camera on?" And he was like, "No, it's not." Well, your camera, I can guarantee their policy is if you're making arrests, your camera needs to be on and engaged. There's a 20-second delay. But he should hit the button. There's no way you're not going to have your camera on if you're. There's no way you're not going to have your camera.
Sorry about that. I sped it up.
There's a 20-second delay. It will kick on, but he should have hit the button. There's no.
Absolutely. That's not just policy. That's a matter of being able to place material fact evidence in the record to support your position. And this is what they fail in everything. They can't support their position through the statutes, codes, rules, and regulations that they're using because they don't interpret them. They just use whatever they think they can because the language is simple, and they pose this down, and then they're going to hand it over to an attorney that's going to help take care of it because the guy on the other side is just as confused by the language. Learn the language, and you can dismiss those tickets easily.
Way you're not going to have your camera on if you're arresting an.
And when it comes to these serious violations, it's going to take a little bit more work and research, but you're going to have people like myself that are going to help you through it. And again, folks, the true benefit is the knowledge. That's what you get through experience from other people and being able to have faith in that knowledge, not the people. It's not me, it's the message.
An elected official in the middle of a meeting. So I would love to have seen the whole opinion and to see if the judge touched on that point as well, because he attempted to violate her rights right there as well, to not leave a record or a trail of what happened.
Obviously, it came to be personal in some ways, but also in some other issues that are coming up here. But how much damages do you foresee in something like this?
I mean, that's the problem, is that because what harm was caused outside of that, that will be hard to calculate. And because
Well, one of the harms in doing these kinds of things, folks, is when they do it in public forum like this, it instills that fear in the people. So the people that were there saw it happen, and they may see the undoing of it, but if they don't, then that fear continues on through them to other people around them, and it keeps its hold. So it's a matter of coming in and letting these people know, hey, we know this whole unit is corrupt. If you're not corrupt, get out and walk now. We'll recognize you then. That way the ones remaining on the bench are willing to sit there on that bench and realize, folks, those are benches. Okay? Same thing as any judge chamber. And they're sitting above everybody else. And then in order for you to have a standing, you have to stand at a podium. So think about this stuff and realize you have the power. Again, that's a vote of no confidence, and letting your community leaders communicate with you by action, by requesting them just to get up and walk out. You can reform that city council with good people. The ones that remain are admitting they are corrupt.
They have not expressed what damages she received. I was not able to see that. But what I can tell you is the point was already proven, regardless of even if it was a monetary amount of a nominal fee of $1. The fact that the judge says that's not what we do in this country.
And that's a very powerful point right there. Fuck the dollar. Okay? It doesn't matter how many. It's a time to put a stop to this shit. There are people that know what's going on. Some of them do sit on those benches, and you need to learn how to discern the differences. I'm not against all judges. I'm not against all police. I'm not against all authority, only the corrupt ones.
Political adversaries and allow them to be arrested because you disagree with their comment. That's a problem. That's not what this country was built on. And
again, it is a political problem, like it's mentioned, because again, it's the sheriff that's enforcing this. And the sheriff is the one that gets elected by the people. So it's the sheriff showing the people that they need to be fear of him. And he's the one they voted in. Like the plastic straws with paper wraps, you know? If you don't put something good in there, it doesn't matter. They're just going to keep switching one for the other, and it's going to look like a solution, but it never is.
I'm glad that the judge did that, and I'm glad she stood up for herself and stood up for other folks and then filed this claim against folks that were completely wrong.
Kind of an example of what to do in a situation should you find yourself in that. And the charges were ultimately dropped, so we'll have to see what happens with that lawsuit.
Depressing. This right here, sad.
All right, Khalif Rhodes, thank you.
And as for
So,
Yeah. In my state's the only one without a sheriff. Connecticut.
which one's that?
My state of Connecticut, we don't have a sheriff here.
You've got a constable.
Yeah.
Constable with stable. Now, is that stable grounds or stable for livestock? See, there's still ambiguity. You got to figure out what that term means. So anyway, yeah, that's the beginning of our stream tonight. As it relates to, like I said, those contracts and everything. And these people don't know the first thing about contracting, evidently, and how they work. And that's what the Universal Postal Union protocols are about, is the sections relative to the Constitution of the United States. It's the protocols, which are the sections of the Universal Postal Union's Constitution, which the Constitution of the United States is an indenture. It's an underwriting. That's an insurance contract. So let's look at the next one. And the next one I want to speak on is because that insurance contract is an earmarking. And let's look what earmarking means according to Investopedia. What is earmarking? Earmarking is the practice of setting particular money aside for a specific, special purpose, per the position. The term can be used in several contexts, such as in congressional appropriations of taxpayer funds. Congress shall lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises. They're all taxes. They're all forms of taxes. What are taxes? Gifts. That's the only thing they appropriate. Gifts. To the individual practices, like mental accounting. You're the one that's giving them the accounting because of your mentality. So what is mental accounting? Notice, just like in the U.S. Code and CFR, if you have a blue line highlighted item, you can click on it. It brings you to another link. And it says, mental accounting definition, avoiding bias. I'm telling you, folks, you have to create the bias to show them what a greater truth is, to bring them up. Otherwise, avoiding bias means you're going to subject yourself to that lower standard of fractional reserve notes. Reserve. You're going to reserve a higher value in a lesser value system. Mental accounting refers to the different values a person places on the same amount of money based on subjective criteria, often with detrimental results. Mental accounting is a concept in the field of behavioral economics. They are targeting your activities, your actions. And so when you are a child and you scream out for all that sugar that you like, and you don't have a mama or a daddy that will tell you no, the stores will conveniently place all of their sugar candies on the lower shelves so the kids can see it, so that while they're in public, they can scream at their mommy and daddy and act like little tyrants, and mommy and daddy cuck to them. Say, okay, here we go. We'll get you this candy bar. Stop it. Developed by economist Richard H. Thaler, it pretends, intends that individuals classify funds differently and therefore are prone to irrational decision making in their spending and investment behavior. When you spend that money, you are investing. Mental accounting a behavioral economics concept, recept, precept, incept, introduced by Nobel Prize winning economist Richard Thaler, refers to the different values people place on money. Mental accounting often leads to people to make irrational investment decisions and behave in financially counterproductive or detrimental ways, such as funding a low-interest saving account while carrying large credit card balances. If you're a creditor under the nations, why do you need a savings account? Because you think you're in debt or will be in debt in the future, because you don't recognize that you are the creditor and therefore shouldn't be saving anything, but actually extending credit as the investment. To avoid the mental accounting bias, individuals should treat money as completely interchangeable, no matter where they allocate it, whether to a budget account, everyday living expenses, a discretionary spending account, or a wealth account, savings and investments. So let's go back. Now that you get a concept of that, the earmarking is your own earmarking. But what you're doing is you're using other people's definitions instead of comprehending the meanings. Earmarking is the process whereby people or organizations appropriate specific money for specific purposes. In organizations, earmarking relates to how companies or governments budget spending. For individuals, earmarking can imbue money with symbolic value based on who or what it is earmarked for, with mental accounting being a special case of self-earmarking one's funds. So I can earmark a 1965 Mustang for my son. I can earmark a 1973 VW Beetle for my daughter. They might be similar in price, but that is not the value. The value is the self-earmarking and the intent behind it, the symbolic intent behind it. Do you hear me now? Anybody? I guess we lost Russell. What do you think, John?
Well, I think earmarks have to be earned. So I don't know how many are.
Well, it comes by calling, obviously, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that goes way back, though.
Absolutely. So let's look at the next one real quick. We're going to take a peek at one of the things I'm going to hopefully point out to you here when it comes to all these contracts, licenses, oaths, registrations, and stuff one more time. Because as the law is uniform throughout all jurisdiction, it means you're treated the same. Okay? 7 U.S. Code 136. This is the agricultural code. 136 is definitions. And it says, for purposes of this subchapter, there's adultered. Remember what pollution is? It's an agriculture and environmental protection thing that they're working on. Okay? So everything relates to agriculture. And it says animal. Means all vertebrate and invertebrate species, as in special and specific, including but not limited to man and other mammals, birds, fish, and shellfish. Not limited to man. So what's the difference Because if I ask, let me show you guys that definition there just so you know. And this is 7 U.S. Code 136. And if you can't license an animal, if you can't get an oath of office from an animal, if you can't force an animal to register itself, then what's the difference between the animal and the man when it comes to agriculture and the conversion of that agriculture, the labor, the physical labor that comes from the agriculture and its value, to a commodity and its value system? You guys ask yourself this? I mean, if I have to have a fishing license, let me ask, does an animal have to, like a bear, does an animal like a bear have to have a fishing license? Well, no. Then why are you telling another animal like a man that he has to have one? Do you see the inconsistency with reason and logic, people, when they put these kind of definitions before you? So that when you fill out a rental agreement, a lease agreement, and you line item veto the lease agreement for a credit agreement, and then they have this thing about deposit for animals, but they're exempt for service animals. What service are you providing, you fucking animals? Don't you get it?
And I think all mortgages are backed by the Department of Agriculture.
Absolutely. And the Department of Agriculture is what backs the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. It's what backs all insurances. The Federal Crop Insurance Program backs all insurances. That's the HUD thing. See that insurance contract? Again, folks, it's condemning the land of its natural use. No matter what plant life, microbial life, organic life, or anything already lives on it, they are condemning that life so that they can pave over it for their commercial purposes, their commercial intent. So let's take a look at the next one, because the next one I hope will show you that there's something amiss in these misclassifications, these variances from categorical pre-treatment standards that are fundamentally different in nature. And again, it's not them, it's the categorical pre-treatment standards that you classify yourself under because you don't know there's a fundamental difference in nature that would change those standings. This one here is 5 U.S. Code 552 Public Information. And what it is a U.S. code. And then down here, it's going to give you the U.S. code. But again, there's a blue line highlighted if you go over to notes. What is a note? It is a promise. So their promises consist of this. In subsection B3, the words formulated and are omitted as surplusage. In the last sentence of subsection B, the words in any manner are omitted as surplusage, since the prohibition is all inclusive. Okay, so when we think about the contract, that Constitution of the Universal Postal Union and the protocols is the sections. So now here we have a clause. It's a note put onto it showing a clause of differences. When we click on here, it says findings and declarations. You guys remember me talking about 42 U.S. Code 1395X. That's in relation to the inpatient hospital treatment, wherein there's a declaration of a spell of illness by a bill, a registration, enumeration at birth, triplicate, a triple communication, a trident, triple communication verifying a declaration of what was found in a foundling hospital because mom was incompetent and didn't know. Hope you guys are catching on to this. And of course, this is just my interpretation, my opinion only, folks. So let's take a look at the next one. I think it's this one. Under definitions, we've seen this one before. This is federal government, means all entities of the United States. We talked about competencies, means the knowledge, skills, abilities, behaviors, and other characteristics, personalities, characteristics of performance. You perform in character, you perform in person. An individual needs to perform the duties of a position. What are you going to pose? Employee has the meaning given that term in 5 U.S.C. 2105, except the term also includes employee, blah, blah, blah. Employee. What's a job corps? Economic opportunity. 42 U.S.C. 2712. Job corps. Corp oration. You are the orator for the job. You're the one that gets to dictate your job. Learn how to determine that. That's not the one I was looking for. I'll have to see if I can find it again. But the service agreement means a written agreement between an agency and an employee, which is any employee, through an employee application, under which the employee agrees to a specified period of employment of not less than 6 months or more than 4 years with the agency in return for payment of a recruitment incentive. That SS5. When you fill out that SS5, young men, they then turn around and tell you you're required to sign up for selective service. Let me go back. Maybe it's this. Let me look in this note a little bit further. We're in here even. Because I know I had a definition of employee earlier that I wanted to show you guys, and I lost it. Party includes a person or agency. Nothing else. Named or admitted. This is the admission. Mom made an admission to the agency as a person and gave them the name of another person as a party, or proper, seeking and entitled as of right to be admitted as a party. Again, an admission. She wanted to be a party in the contract. That's the wrong admission. In that admission, she admitted her child that she just gave birth to wanted to be in the contract as well. There is no proper declaration. There is no proper heralding of a legacy heir, as opposed to the person that might be able to be a representation of him at some future time, if he so desired and stated. So
Right,
anyway,
and the legacy is on your father's side, right?
correct. And this is why I keep telling people, if you truly want to go after the material existence, pay homage to the mother, the seventh Sabbath, or the Sabbath to the mother every 7 years. That's where you get your material gain, is from her. Heal thyself from her. That's what you're truly supposed to be observing, because that is what patent, observable, that is already patent, as everybody says it, and not latent, latent, underlying, overlying, intent, in between. You're the one that makes the decision. You either make the higher choice or the lesser choice. Up to you. So let's get on to this convention, Universal Postal Union Convention, and it's Universal Postal Convention, and anybody can join it, and it doesn't say union, because you get to make your own partnership outside of that union of all the other 194 nations. Okay? You get to make your own private adoptions. Pay attention. And this is going to be in accordance with the Constitution of the Universal Postal Union and the acts therein. Constitution of the Universal Postal Union and the Universal Postal Convention with Vent Ion. This is your speech with speech. So when you adopt it and you do your line item vetoing, your acceptance, your conditions, then that's an offer and acceptance, and you want it ratified by handing it back to them for their continued agreement in honor of the instrument that they put out in the public as an offer to all people. All people. As we go down, we see Constitution of the Universal Postal Union, amended by the 69 Tokyo, 74 Lausanne, 1984 Hamburg, 89 Washington, 94 Seoul, 99 Beijing, 2004 Bucharest, 24th Congress, 2008, 2016 Istanbul, 18 Addis Ababa, 2021, the new one, Abidjan Additional Protocols. And we're going to see a change here because it's been updated. You guys have heard me speak about the freedom of transit. It's guaranteed throughout the entire territory of the Union. That's the special maritime territorial jurisdiction of the United States under 18 U.S.C. 8, which is a clause under the section of the Constitution. Okay? As part of the U.S. Code, it's a clause under the Section 8, Article 1, or Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1 of the Constitution. It is the indentured contract portion of that. So the table of contents, preamble. Preamble. With a view. Observation. What is patent? You can see it. It's clear. Doesn't need to be clarified. It's there. To developing communications between peoples by the efficient operation of the postal services. Again, it's a military operation. Royal Navy on down through all admiralties of naval forces. Admiralty is the people of the land. that put captains on their Navy vessels of the postal services and to contributing to the attainment of the noble aims of international collaboration in cultural, social, and economic fields. Notice the economic fields is last. Social, which is the communications of socialization through cultural elements. This is why we have translations, interpretations. Not all of us have the same culture, but in those cultures, we oftentimes do a lot of the same things. Sometimes they're called rain dances by one culture. Another culture might call them something else. The plenipotentiaries of the governments of the contracting countries. The countries are already contracted. It's under an international global postal trust. Therefore, the people are the beneficiary intended through documentation. So let's look at the first article. The Constitution adopting this, or the countries adopting this Constitution. It's all about adoption. They didn't buy it, they didn't sell it, they adopted it, and then they amended it for their own clauses, their own terms and conditions, according to their language. America uses English language. You know what the language of the Constitution here is? Anybody can answer. John, do you know the answer? What's the
Legalese.
language? Could be. In the documents, they state French.
No shit.
Yep. That was the original language, and they originally used the French franc. But see, Napoleon sold off the Louisiana Territory. When did he do that? Yeah, when he was losing his war. So the sale of Louisiana, the Louisiana Purchase, was a funding of his war efforts. However, today we still have a little thing down in the United States called Louisiana that still follows French common law and has, instead of counties, they have parishes. And much like Connecticut, running by constables, they are bishops.
Yeah, it's under Napoleonic code versus the rest of the country under Roman code.
Yep. And that's the difference. So when we look at the Constitution of the United States, that's under what? All roads lead to Rome. Who owns all the roads? The Postal Service, right? The Post Office. So that's the romantic. Yeah. Romantic. Romantic. It's about time, folks. Contract. Con, with, tract. A span of time. Protract. The compass and protractor. Oh, goodness gracious. Imagine all of this stuff if you could just get down to the simple terms and know what this stuff means. Global Postal Trust Services. So make it romantic, inspiring, and not belligerent and combative. Bring a greater peace, a fortiori, a greater truth. Isn't that what people are romanticizing about? Is something more truthful than all of this corruption we've got? So let's look at the convention. Let me see here. First, I want to check something else out. Okay, that's not it. So let's keep going here. Says table of contents, section 1, rules applicable in common throughout the international postal services. Then we have article, just like Constitution 1. And it's going to tell us about the definitions. When we go down and look at Article 1, it's then going to be broken up into clauses on the other side of the 1. It's a decimal system of record keeping. Decimal, 10th, th. It's a gift system. You can tell by the enumeration it's a gifting system. Learn how these styles of numbers and grammar of letters and words and stuff works. So you see all the different clauses under the article of section 1. Then it says, section 2 is designation of the entity or entities responsible for fulfilling the obligations arising from adherence to the convention. Okay? And this convention brings forth no violence. And this article, section 1, is under the same Constitution, Article 1 of the Constitution under its organic provisions, scope and objective, observance, objective. The countries adopting this Constitution shall form under the intergovernmental organization entitled the Universal Postal Union, and it is entitled the Universal Postal Union under the Global Postal Trust Services for contracting intergovernmental organizations to follow this set of codes. A single postal territory for reciprocal exchange of postal items. First, let's talk about the items being commercial and their postal items, meaning they can be posted publicly. So it's a public issue, whereas this is an offer to people, so they can encompass it in both public and private capacity. Okay? In that, there's an exchange which is reciprocal for a single postal territory. 18 U.S.C. 8, special maritime territorial jurisdiction, and it is exclusive. This is why the United States Postal Service has exclusive jurisdiction under the Constitution of the United States, Article 1, Section 8, clauses all the way through, with the exception of Article 8 for intensive purposes of the private and public. When we look at that Article 8 or Clause 8 under that United States Constitution, is about creator content. That's the Treaty of Berne, protecting all literary and artistic works. And you have the right to claim a value publicly or a private value. And then it says, subject to the conditions specified in the Acts of the Union and any additional protocols thereto. Herein, collectively, see how these terms keep coming up all over the place? All they're doing is collecting data elements. Now, you can give them specific data elements that are special to your species. In the Acts of the Union, in the Acts of Partnership, independently, exclusively, and inclusive of yourself in the private capacity, and any additional protocols there too. So they already have an Acts of the Union, and you can add onto it your special conditions by offering acceptance that make sense, John? And again, I forgot to show that. And let me blow this up. I'm terrible at this, guys. My apologies. Any response, John?
Yeah, you have to. If you don't give them instructions, they'll make their own.
You guys hear that? You are giving them instructions. You're just not giving them a biased instruction that will allow them a greater truth and not only be a benefit to you, but to them as well. You have to comprehend this. That's your cup welleth over. You have to bring that knowledge. The knowledge is the benefit, and it's good for everybody. You're not supposed to hold it against them. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. Let me help redeem them through knowledge. That's the true gift. That's the true benefit. That's the true unique tool and weapon.
Got it.
Yes, Breezy says he gave us the most powerful tool of all, the ability to dream, co-create. That is the I'm age of nation. I can now profit unto the nation. Imagination. I nation. I'm age. I'm the nation. I am one of the nations of Israel. I am one of those children. I don't have to title the nation. Matter of fact, Isaiah 43:1 tells us, fear not, for I have redeemed thee. I have called thee by thy name. Thou art mine. 44:5 reinforces it. One shall say, I am the Lord's. Another shall call himself by the name of, or one shall call himself by the name of Jacob, and another shall subscribe with his hand the actions unto the Lord, and surname himself by the name of Israel. I stand by Israel. Surname. Surrogate name. Surrogate. Letters rogatory for subrogation situations. The right to redeem oneself by claiming the personage in its true and salvageable capacity, so that you can resurrect in the true and lawful birthright and merge it with a new name. It's all biblical. No, the UPU is the UPU, Universal Postal Union. The Universal Postal Union operates under the international UCC, which is Her Majesty's Union Customs Codes, a set of international harmonized tariff codes, tax codes. And under that, they have insurance contracts to maintain fidelity, their fidelity agreements to extend credit, credence, spiritual credit or manual credit. You decide which record you want to keep. And that's versus the Uniform Customs Code, or the Uniform Customs Codes at the international level, which is the taxes and insurance, which is what the Uniform Contract or Uniform Commercial Code for contracting is subject to. That's why they're requiring you to pay taxes and insurance to be involved in intergovernmental contracting. You're not supposed to. Joseph says, seems like much of this is plaque on the tooth, where we are made to comprehend etymologies which are repugnant to the Constitution, bastardized by trickery of words. I thought the law was supposed to be styled in favor of the common law. Exactly. However, remember, folks, common law was merged with equity, and it is your escape route to come out of her, Babylon, the English language, and recognize, again, the Constitution here was written with the intents of French, and we'll see that later on as we go through this. I've got tomorrow night's part 2 scheduled, so we'll just continue on. and we're just going to do however many parts it's going to take to get through these two documents, so you can learn how to adopt it, line out a veto, and offer it back for ratification in a private interlocal agreement between yourself and the Universal Postal Union's Constitution contract. You're the creditor, even on the international level, not just the United States. And so when common law was merged with equity, remember, common law is the supreme law of the land, and the Constitution of the United States is, in fact, a contract in trust. So it's a contract based on English. So you still have to learn the English contracting, but the equity side is the trust. So you get to merge it with trust law, which is scripture. That's that triplicate. Remember, I mentioned the triplicate. So with that, I think we're going to be done for tonight. I just wanted to introduce things as a concept that the constitutions, folks, they're all public offers to adopt, line out a veto, and amend to your specified conditions based on your terms, that you have to be able to coincide with their terms. They give you their definitions, look them up, find out what they mean, and give your opposing side of it that is equal, showing that you hold an equal station, that it's not going to be out of balance, that you agree with their term, but on the private side, you have the access to this device, the Constitution of the Universal Postal Union, to extend credit, as its Article 1 statement says, freedom of transit is guaranteed throughout the entire territory of that union, which is exclusive to my private contract, and private contracts can't be interfered with, even by their public contract. Understand this stuff. You got any questions there, John?
No, I'm just seeing that it's our level of skill which dictates common law too. How much we understand the law and how much we understand the codes. I think that's
well, yeah, and that comes down to that. That comes down to that English again. See, we've been taught a bastardized English through this public education system, and if you go back and learn the concise English, that's going to help you a lot. The next one is the King James Version of the Bible, learning how to interpret the various different scriptures among themselves as they're told through different eyes, and of course written by different eyes. Again, it's the like wording that repeats itself is going to give you the ability to discern what in those statements is most accurate. Curate. CU, rate. CU is copper. The copper rate. The percentum. That's why everything's broken down in pennies. That's the millage. So anyway, with that then, if you've got no final words, Don?
Nope. Good show.
All right. Thank you kindly. Thank you for showing up. And again, we'll go over some more stuff again tomorrow, prior to getting into the writings. I've got another video I want to go over real quick, and maybe a couple shorts, and then we'll get into the writings. And I want to thank everybody for your support. Remember, Universal Postal Union, the Global Postal Trust Services, that's the true P.O.P.s. Post Office Protocols. You are, in fact, your own post official. Okay? Office of P.I.G.S.C.U.N.T.S. You're going to give a benefit. P.I.G.S.C.U.N.T.S. in fidelity, a peace agreement, a treaty to protect literary and artistical work, articles. You get to create your own articles in terms and conditions. You get to adopt theirs and amend them. Learn how to do it. You are that creator, and you can use other people's works to do so. Again, look at the Constitution of the Universal Postal Union and their copyright and disclaimer. It's the first thing on my site, folks. And with that, again, I want to thank everybody for your support. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe button. There is a PayPal button down below for anybody that wants to share some love. And again, I could certainly use it. All is well appreciated. And may you know that I love you, but I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back. And that's to say, I don't care if you hate me. Keep growing, and one day you may learn to love me. In the meantime, may God bless you, and have a good night.